this is bamboo. And it's here because we're in a location that is wonderful. It's an area that's been recognized for thousands of years, one of the best places in the whole country. Lots of water, #1 source of water for the Jordan River is right here. You can hear the water rushing behind us. You'll see it in a moment. And it looks kind of like glacial water. And of course, this was the territory that Danites came from. Dan was the 5th child of Jacob. We have 12 tribes. That 5th son is Dan. But if you look at what the Bible says, they are supposed to be way down just to the area west of Jerusalem, out to the coast. So way down in the country that way. And here we are at the very north part of the country. Why are they here?
Why are they here?
They're here because they could not get rid of the Philistines down there. The Philistines are on the coast. 5 Philistine cities are along that coast. And that was their territory. And so they said, let's send out some scouts. And they did. And they found that this area is fertile. We've gone by orange trees, avocado trees, nut trees. It's just a fertile area. It's wonderful, lots of water. And they said the people there are unsuspecting. They're peaceful people, going about their lives. Let's go kill them all.
Wow.
That's what they did. So they came here, they put the people to the sword, and now we have Dan at the very top of the country instead of the middle of the country. And so we read that expression in the Bible, from Dan to Beersheba. Beersheba is down the bottom of the country. And so when you read from Dan to Beersheba, you're reading from top to bottom. That's what it means. So we're going to walk through Dan. There are several things here to see. We're just going to explore together.
Okay.
Invite everyone on the video to come join us. Here we go.
Here we go.
What?
It's very clear.
Oh yeah, good. You could drink it.
Man.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah. Yeah, it won't be too difficult. Nah.
No? Yeah, it's not that cold in this one.
It's cold enough not to get in.
It's bubbling out actually all along this hill. There are places everywhere it's coming out.
There's multiple springs.
Pardon me?
Multiple springs.
Multiple springs. Yeah, it's not one place. It's everywhere, all through this hill. It bubbles out.
Man.
Well, there's water coming up everywhere like this.
You know what?
And there are places
Refill my water.
you just have to walk over the stones to get to the next place.
I'm filling my water up.
Are you really? I mean, you could probably.
No, thank you. I would be scared.
Yeah, where it's running fast. But yeah, I'd be a little nervous about it. Yeah, out there, I think I probably would be willing if I was really neat. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
Coming out of rocks.
that's wild.
It's just wild.
How long did they live here for?
Well, I mean, they were here throughout the history of Israel. If you're talking about the Danites. What have we come to? You can tell this is a military installation as well as a Tel.
A trench.
Uh-huh.
Really?
So they can, yes, because from here you can see into Lebanon. You can see, Lebanon is just very close to us right now. We're right on the border. And so we have another nation just right across the way here.
So people would go.
Get
These
down
are for
in.
soldiers.
Yeah, they get down in there.
Yeah. So if there's bomb, they can move around. And again, we're at the top of the Tel, so that means there's different layers of civilizations over the years. Okay. One of my guys, again, I haven't been into Dan in years, but one year went into the shelter and didn't blow his head. Okay, well, let's have a little comment about this.
Go for it.
Okay, well, just a fact that needs to be appreciated. In Jerusalem, there's a model of Dan that shows its development as an archaeological site. All of this was under dirt.
Oh, wow.
There was no exposure. This is basically a hill covered with dirt.
Oh, wow.
And so to get to walls, to get to the gate, all this had to be uncovered.
Oh, wow.
Everything is buried in effect.
I wonder how long that took to uncover everything.
Well, digs happen in series of years, and so sometimes a dig will go on for a year or two, and then maybe skip a few years and start again.
Okay.
Sponsored maybe by another university or another group, but I don't know what the years are on Dan. That'd have to be looked up. But it's just amazing to me that so much is buried in the ground, and that's true all over Israel. You have, maybe 5% of Israel excavated that needs to be excavated, so not much.
Yeah.
Not much.
Not much.
Okay. So let's. Okay, let me do that
The
again.
Book of Dan.
I was gone for a second, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back.
You needed lunch.
Yeah, right. No, one of my favorite books is Verna Keller's The Bible is History. It sold about 10 million copies. Very, very popular book describing his discoveries in the Middle East. He was a newspaper reporter in effect, and he didn't believe the Bible was true, but at place after place there's all this evidence that it was true. And so as he was going and interviewing the archaeologists and finding out what they had found, looking at the discoveries that have been made, he says in that book, the Bible must be true. Over and over, that just the Bible, and it just shocked him because he didn't think it was. And so, but because he was not a believer, every time he could find something that would contradict the Bible, he would stress it. So for example, in the days of Abraham, he sent his servant to go find a wife for Isaac, and they went on the camels and so forth. And so he stresses, it's a wonderful story, but obviously there's something not true here, because they didn't use camels at that time for travel. They hadn't been domesticated yet.
I see. So he would highlight that fact.
He would highlight that fact, but it was completely wrong.
Yeah.
Since that time, we have had an abundance of evidence, since he wrote the book, that there were camels used at that time. It was a caravan. That same basic principle is found in some of the archaeologists at Haifa and Tel Aviv. They're atheists. Israel Finkelstein is a famous one. And every time there's a show on the History Channel or A&E, they want to interview those guys. Because they don't believe, and they want to emphasize the Bible's not true and so forth. And so we find the same thing here, connect with the site. What's important to me at Tel Dan is the Tel Dan inscription.
Okay.
The Tel Dan inscription was discovered in 1993. Up until that time, there are many saying that King David never existed. These are just all made up stories. Yeah, that's right. In fact, there's a book published, I think it was 78, called The Myth of King David. A whole book on the subject.
Oh my gosh.
And then a piece of rock was found here as he was doing the work, and that mentioned King of Israel was one of the lines, but another place, House of David. That was the very first time we had any evidence in terms of, in rock, that there was a King David. And that rock we're going to see in the Israel Museum. It's on display there. And of course, at first someone said, well, someone must have planted that there. There are those who just absolutely wanted to discredit the Bible, and so they worked at it. But then, the next dig season, the next year, they found 2 more pieces of that basalt rock.
Oh, nice.
And now there's no doubt, no one out there today is saying that that does not say the House of David. It does indeed. And so there was a King David, and the idea is to discredit the Bible, throw it out. The Bible can be believed from beginning to end is the point.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what about this author? Did he end up believing the Bible?
Well, he came to believe, this is what you're talking about, Verna Keller. He's a German, and he did come to believe the Bible is amazing. It's the best history book there is from that period of time. Nothing else compares. Nothing else compares. You have Menentho, you have Herodotus, the father of history. And in fact, all of these early folks you might call historians are filled with errors. Herodotus describes Babylon. We think that he never even went there because he has so many errors. And so all the early historians, in fact, I often say, I think Josephus is really the first person you can call a true historian. He was very careful in his documentation, very careful in his research. It's excellent history, but nothing compares to the Bible. From that era, nothing compares with the Bible. And it's supported in 1,000 different ways from archaeology and many other ways. Yeah.
So that's where we sit, and then that's where I have everybody sit up there, and that's where I teach.
Okay, this place is the place where Jeroboam built a golden calf. He wanted one here, the very top of the country, and he wanted one just right above Jerusalem at Bethel, because Bethel is the very bottom of his new country, the 10 northern tribes who had just separated from the house of David.
Nice.
We had Saul, then we have the house of David begins, and David, and then his son is Solomon, and his son is Rehoboam. But Solomon had taxed a lot. He built great things, but he taxed a lot, and so the people come to his son when his son becomes king, to King Rehoboam, and say, please lower the taxes.
Yeah.
He talks to the young men, asks for advice, talks to the old men. The old men say, you ought to listen to the people. There'll be loyalty, just listen to the people, lower the taxes. The young men said, tell them you're going to be tougher than your father. You're going to even raise taxes.
So
This
what does
kind
he
of thing.
do? Yeah.
It makes the foolish decision to say that I'm going to be even tougher than my father.
I see.
And the people decide, we're not going to have you as our king. And they rebel. And Jeroboam is the talented young man. Solomon recognizes his talent. But at one point, he becomes fearful of Jeroboam. Jeroboam has to flee, goes to Egypt. And in Egypt, there must be the worship of cows, because when the people leave Egypt, the Exodus, under Moses, after the 10 plagues, they go out into the Sinai. Moses goes out up Mount Sinai to receive the 10 Commandments. When he comes down, the people are partying, dancing, and what are they worshiping?
I guess a calf.
The golden calf. Yeah, they'd given Aaron, Moses' brother, earrings, everything else they had of gold. He made a calf of gold. Of course, he told Moses, he just threw all those things in the fire and that popped out. It's amazing. He thought that would be believed.
So why a calf?
I think because they must have been worshipped at that time in Egypt.
Oh, I
And
see.
so for Jeroboam to flee from Solomon and go to Egypt, where these things are worshipped, as they are kind of in India today. Think about
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So he comes here and he builds an altar, puts a calf on, and says, this is your God,
Wow.
Israelites, and he does it down the south. You would think no one would go along. And in fact, I'm pleased to say that we read that many of the people did leave. They went south to Judea, they went to
Okay.
Jerusalem. They said that we don't have any part of this, but most of the people went along.
Oh no. That's not good.
No, it's sad.
Yeah,
It's sad,
very sad.
that the degree of loyalty, and I think that part of that is they just don't understand that there is one God who is all powerful, who knows every thought, every word we speak, and one man come along and say, this is your God, and they go along. It's just, it's
Yeah.
fantastic that this can happen, but it's happened over and over and over.
Yeah.
When you look at the kings of Israel, how often we've had a good king,
And then
his son will become wicked and turn away from God, and then all the people turn away from God. That's why we have the Mount Carmel thing with Elijah. That's why we have a Hezekiah who has to turn the people back to God, or a Josiah who has to turn the people back to God. It's happened over and over. Think about this with me, Sarah. If we talk about Hebrew, what we see in Israel today, we see B-E-T, bet. We see B-E-I-T, bait. Occasionally we'll see B-E-T-H, Beth.
okay.
Well, the ancient Hebrew we think was closer to the Beth, and we see it in so many things, so many names. And so we have Bethel. Now, El means God. And so we have in American names and European names and names of people around the world, really, Bible names, El very often there. So Bethel is where Jacob went when he was fleeing. He was worried that his brother Esau might kill him.
Oh.
And so he leaves because he had deceived his father. And when he stops, he goes to Bethel. And that's where he has his vision, stairway to heaven. And he names the place Beth, house, El of God.
Okay, I was gonna ask what Beth was.
Yeah, house of
So,
God.
house of
Now think about the names you can come up with that have El in them, like Elizabeth. Can you come up with more? Samuel,
That's true.
Daniel. Can you come up with some more? There's about 30 of them.
Oh man.
So that'd be a good activity for the folks watching.
Yeah,
Just make a
definitely.
list, and then they can go to a Bible software program for free online, like Bible Gateway, and they can just put in EL, and it'll pop out every time that appears, and there will be countless times it appears, and you'll see all the names as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay.